The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Atlanta. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts in the field of health, legal, financial, and home improvement. Today's show is brought to you by Sunbelt Business Brokers of Atlanta. They do selling of your business. You can call them at 770-936-9099. Maybe you want an evaluation of your business. Give them a call. They do a free evaluation, and they will be joining us after our first expert. This first show, I have learned so much over this past year when it comes to hormone replacement, weight loss, ED. This is such an informative show, and our expert is Dr. Eldred Taylor of the Taylor Medical Group, and you can join us. If you're watching us on TV, we actually have a chat line if you'd like to ask a question. And if you'd like to go back and watch the show, you can go back on Apple or iHeart or YouTube and watch the show. Good morning, Dr. Taylor.
Hello, good morning, Steve.
I tell you what, your show, and I'm really, really excited about today's show because we're going to be talking about cancer and how you can decrease the risk of cancer. And God, Dr. Taylor, you just hear so many people passing from cancer, more than anything that I ever hear about. And maybe today's show, we're going to touch somebody and you will learn something because, well, I've watched my mother, my father both die of cancer, and even my brother, who was only 60 years old. Yeah. So that's why today is such an important show. Dr. Taylor, tell everybody about your practice.
Yes, the name of my practice is the Taylor Medical Group. My wife and I, my wife's also a physician. We practice more of a holistic type of medicine. My original training is in obstetrics and gynecology, and I did that for about 10 to 15 years and got really interested in bioidentical hormone replacement and the proper testing of hormones. And when I veered on that little off ramp, that different line of thinking, it got me to thinking about a lot of things very differently. And so now we have a more holistic practice that deals more with helping the body to function normally than to give a lot of drugs to try and cover up symptoms. So that's the focus of our practice, and we enjoy it and get a lot more gratification than the way I used to practice medicine.
Dr. Taylor, I got to tell you, I'm a little bit older than you, though Dr. Taylor looks like he's in his early 40s. But, it's when you used to hear the word holistic, it was like taboo, and doctors would put down holistic. Oh, my God, has there been a turnaround? Yeah. I mean, so many doctors now believe in holistic medicine. And I got to tell you, I have seen doctors who practice, like yourself, practice holistic, have even gotten better results than, and you're an MD also, but even gotten better results than doctors.
Yeah.
Do you remember those days?
Oh, hey, I was a part of those days. I mean, I I started doing this back in the late 90s. And when I stopped doing obstetrics in 2006, all of my colleagues thought I was absolutely crazy. I was, in my 40s, and most people, they don't stop doing OB until, in their 50s or 60s. And, I kind of took a leap of faith and said, hey, this is what I believe in. I'm going to do it come, sink or swim. And, yeah, I was a part of that group of doctors that other doctors called quacks when they were, when they were doing something different than what the so-called standard of care said you're supposed to do. So yeah, I realized that I actually spent about 10 or 12 years on the lecture circuit. Actually, I just got back from Miami. I gave a lecture to some Latin American physicians talking about hormone replacement. So, but I spent about 10 years. I mean, I went all over the world. I went to Australia, Canada, all over the United States, speaking about hormone replacement. So hopefully I was a part of spreading that philosophy.
Yes.
But I'll tell you, there's still a lot of work to do. There's a
No,
lot of
I realize that.
yeah, there's
But
still a
you know
lot of
what,
work.
Dr. Taylor, I'll talk to friends of mine, relatives of mine, and they'll go, you know what? I've been to several doctors, not just one,
Yeah,
and nothing has changed. I still feel the same. There's
right.
something wrong. And I found a doctor, and he's a holistic doctor, and I'm really excited. I can't tell you how many times I have heard about alternative medicine.
Yeah. Well, most of the patients who come to me, I'm like their last ditch effort.
Yes.
They've been to a lot of doctors. Nothing seems to be happening. And I kind of explained it like this. The frustration with the physician and the patient is twofold. One, the patient goes to the doctor. The doctor is looking for a disease. So when he doesn't find a quote unquote disease, he tells the patient, you're not sick. But the patient is saying, but I don't feel well. And those are two totally different things. You cannot be well, but also not be sick. And so the doctor is right. They don't have a diagnosable disease. And the patient is also right because she's not well. So in holistic or functional medicine, we're trying to fill in that gap between being sick and being well. There's a huge gap there. And if you can, help somebody in this stage before they get to the disease part, that's actually what they're asking a holistic doctor to do. And so you have to do some different type of testing. You have to do different types of treatments because you're not treating a disease. You're actually helping the body become well or become functional again. So that's why there's so much frustration and animosity because the patient is exactly right. They're not well. The doctor's exactly right too. They're not sick. So everybody just leaves the whole relationship frustrated.
Well, we're going to be talking about cancer and preventative measures, but I wanted to get one other thing in.
Mhm.
When COVID, there was a lot of people in the administration who said that a lot of these ways of treating COVID did not work. And I got to tell you, Dr. Taylor, I got COVID. And
Right.
of course, they gave me medication, and it really didn't help. But when
Right.
I went to a infectious disease doctor who
Mm.
believed in I call it the cocktail,
Right.
I was well in 2 days. 2
Right.
days. I was feeling well. And here I had doctors over me, treating
Mhm.
me with who knows what.
Right.
And it just, and I want people to know, especially because you do the same thing. I
Mhm.
call it the cocktail, but you know what I'm saying.
What were you taking vitamin C? What I
Yeah,
mean, vitamin C?
I was taking, it was a cocktail of a real high dosage of vitamin C. I don't know what else was in it. It was an IV, and I took
Okay.
it for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Two
Okay.
days later, I was fine, Dr. Taylor.
Yeah. Yeah. So before any vaccines or anything came out, uh, we were advocating everybody boost your immune system as much as you can. And that was
Yes.
with IV vitamin C and making sure that vitamin D levels were normal, because those are the two major factors that need to be adequate or even above, adequate if you want to fight off disease. So we gave vitamin C IVs uh, to prevent COVID. We also are using it to help people with long COVID. It seems to be instrumental in that. Also, we use something called NAD that helps with energy production. So uh, now I will tell you one thing. We had that on our website prior to any vaccines coming out. All we said was boost your immune system. That's your
Right.
best defense. Never said anything about it cured COVID, anything like that. Just boost your immune system, build your defenses up. We got a letter from the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission told us to take it down. We had like 7 days to take it down. We took it down. And a lot of the other holistic doctors that I know, they got the same letter. So, that's
But
why I
you
told you
never
it's a
said it
lot.
was a cure.
No, never, ever. And I wasn't discouraging anybody from taking the vaccine because there were no vaccines. And
Right.
so it wasn't like it was an anti-vax doc either. But that's why I tell you there's still a lot of work to do. There's big money involved in conventional medicine, and
Yes.
whenever money is involved, uh, people get very defensive trying to protect their turf. So we still have to tread lightly when we're talking about going against conventional. And I want to say I'm not against conventional medicine. I tried to step in when conventional medicine does not seem to be the answer. I am glad that the patient has gone to other doctors and they can't find anything. That reassures me that I'm not missing a significant disease. So they've ruled out all the diseases. Now I can start looking at functional medicine reasons why they're not well. So I am not anti-conventional medicine, but conventional medicine is not the answer for everything.
Well, you did I guess, I don't know if it was your internship and residency at a
Yeah,
little place in Atlanta, one of the
yeah.
finest schools. And my niece went there. Emory is
Oh,
like such an incredible program there.
yeah. I have nothing against my time, especially in the hospital, doing OBGYN. I mean, I was at Grady Hospital, which is one of the busiest hospitals in the country. And so I got excellent training in obstetrics and gynecology, uh, hysterectomies, C-sections, all that. I mean, I got excellent training, but I really didn't know how to make people well. I
I
knew
understand that.
when there was a condition that needed my attention, I could handle it. But day to day, helping people manage hormone imbalances, and again, that hormone imbalance hit me squarely in the face when my wife began having those issues with hormones, and a C-section or a hysterectomy wasn't going to help her. It wasn't going to help our life at home when she's irritable and moody and gaining weight or whatever. And so, learning how to actually help people balance their hormones, feel normal again. That was an education that I got outside of the university setting.
And we're gonna be talking cancer today. We had a viewer write us right before the show about pellets, and
Mhm.
I actually and Dr. Taylor does the pellets, and I just want to tell people that I've actually know of people that I call it the Joe Biden syndrome, kind of slow speech and just,
Oh yeah.
and then they did the pellet, and oh my
Yeah.
God, it was like a difference in night and day. So we just
Yeah.
had somebody ask us
Mhm.
if you do and you do, and they wanted to know how long they last. But
Right.
I've seen the results from the pellet.
Yeah. Well, again, if if you balance things out, people get better. So yeah, we do pellets. We do estradiol pellets, progesterone pellets, and testosterone pellets. And with the testosterone, the pellets have anostrozole in it. It has anostrozole in it so that the testosterone doesn't get converted into estradiol or estrogen. If you give testosterone to people who are overweight or may have a little extra fat tissue, testosterone can be converted into estrogen, and so it makes the testosterone less effective. So there's a drug called anostrozole that you can actually add to the pellet to make sure that that doesn't happen, and that makes the testosterone more efficient. So yeah, but we do pellets, and it's all a matter of convenience. Uh, all of the ways to give hormones can work. The key is to make sure you monitor it appropriately. We've talked a lot about saliva testing. So pellets work, creams work, troches work, pills work, but you just want to make sure you monitor or manage them and monitor them appropriately.
Right. I want to, we just got 2 text messages. First of all, if you're watching us on TV, right there at the bottom, you can see how to make an appointment with Dr. Taylor. We give his website up there. For those who are listening on radio, Dr. Taylor, give us your phone number.
The phone number is 678-443-4000, and the website is the website is taylormedicalgroup.net. taylormedicalgroup.net. And if you have a question, you can also email us at info@taylormedicalgroup.net. And even if you can't make an appointment, you can go to our website. We have a lot of information on a lot of different topics. We try to regularly blog. My wife blogs regularly about medical topics. So just as an information source, you're welcome to go to our website.
And then also remember, now that we've gone to TV, we've expanded the area. It's not just Atlanta, it's the whole state of Georgia. So what Dr. Taylor offers is it's telemed kind of, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's telemed. Yeah, what we do, a lot of things we can do long distance. Measuring hormones, we can send you a kit. You collect your saliva in the kit. You send it off. The results come to me, and we can discuss it. I can share my screen, show you what the results mean. We can have the medication sent to you either through our pharmacy or find a local pharmacy close to you. We'd have to use a compounding pharmacy. But yeah, we can do telemed because I don't actually, again, a lot of the patients have already been seen by docs, examined 1,000 times. I don't need to examine you. I can make a lot of decisions just based off of your medical history and your test results, and you can be treated. Now, of course, we can't give you an IV long distance, but anything other than that, we could take care in a telemed type situation.
Okay, well, let's get to today's show. It's when we do the show together, my mind is always racing, and I'm thinking, God, I got to ask this question before I got to do this. And I see that the texts that are coming in are the same way. But we wanted to talk about decreasing the risk of cancer day. What are some things that people can do to decrease the risk of cancer, Dr. Taylor?
Well, only about 10 to 15% of cancers are genetic. You may have heard about BRCA1, BRCA2. These are these genetic defects that can increase a woman's risk of breast cancer or uterine cancer. So most cancers are caused by environmental situations, chemicals we're exposed to, foods we eat, the stress we're under. So a lot of cancer risk can be eliminated if we kind of change the way that we live our lives. Now, here's the problem. It's almost impossible to avoid all the carcinogenic environmental chemicals that are around. I mean, they're in our food, they're in the air, they're on our in our clothes, they're in what we drink. So what I try to tell patients is that you want to make your cells as healthy as possible. If they've seen that on autopsies, almost everybody who dies of any situation, they will have nests of cancer cells somewhere. Men, prostate cancer, women, breast cancer, but they just sit there. They don't do anything. So it's very important to try and make your cells as healthy as possible. So if a cancer cell is there, it's very hard for it to uh, penetrate healthy tissue. So probably the number one uh, promoter of cancer is inflammation. So if you're inflamed and fat tissue, and that's why weight loss and cancer kind of goes together, fat tissue, it emanates these things called cytokines that are inflammatory. So we've been talking about weight loss. So weight loss is one way to decrease your risk of cancer. Another thing I would tell you is that sleep is very important. And when your hormones are out of balance, it's very difficult for you to sleep. The reason why sleep is so important is that when a person is in deep sleep, there's cells in your body called natural killer cells. And these natural killer cells, they go out at night and they kill cancer cells before they're able to multiply. So if you don't sleep, you're going to have a increased risk of cancer. I always tell patients when they come in the door, if they are complaining of insomnia or having difficulty sleeping, the first thing I want to get them to do is to sleep, because sleep is when your body repairs itself, goes out and kills cancer cells, you rejuvenate yourself. So any other treatment that I use on them is going to work better if they're able to sleep. And then number three is stress. Stress causes the immune system to be depressed. It suppresses those natural killer cells. Stress causes inflammation. Stress makes it where you can't sleep. So you want to try and eliminate stress. There's been studies to show that most cancers, especially breast cancers, happen about 2 years after a series of stressful events have happened in a person's life. It can be one major stress or accumulation of a lot of stressors. Most breast cancers are diagnosed after a series of stressful events in a person's life. So when to say stress can kill you, that's definitely true. So avoid stress, try and make your cells as healthy as possible, and sleep. That would be the three easiest anti-cancer kind of things that everybody could do. I always, my 4-point stress cure or eliminator is that if you can get rid of the stress, get rid of the stress. So if it's a relationship, a job, whatever, if it's stressing you out, you got to get rid of it. If you can't get rid of it, like a sick child or some other stressful situation, you got to change how you respond to it. You're going to have some relaxation techniques. You're going to not let that person stress you out, whatever. You have to change your response. Third, you have to repair the damage caused by the stress. So if it's a problem sleeping, low melatonin, we have to repair that. We have to give you the vitamin C to stop inflammation. And then 4 is to prepare your body for future stress. Because if you live, you're going to have stress. So those are the 4 things you want to do. And it helps to prevent a lot of diseases. But cancer is probably what people are most concerned about.
How much sleep? I don't know if there's a difference between men and women. How much sleep does a person need?
Well, again, I will give you a study. Because I'm an OBGYN, so I see patients who have breast cancers. There was a study done that in women, and they saw that women who slept between 6 and 8 hours, they had no increased risk of breast cancer. They saw that that women who slept more than 8 hours, they decreased their risk by about 20%. If you slept less than 6 hours, you increase your risk of breast cancer like by 20 to 30%.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah. So that's a real thing, and it's no doubt about it that cortisol levels, abnormal cortisol levels, decrease natural killer cells, and also when you have a flattened cortisol curve, their mortality rate increased. So when I see a patient with breast cancer, I try and make sure their hormones are corrected, estrogen and progesterone, especially if they're breast cancers. And then I also look at their cortisol because if their cortisol is abnormal, their mortality rate goes up.
What do you do when a patient comes in and tells you they're having trouble sleeping? I mean, is there something is there a supplement? Uh, what do you tell
Mhm.
them?
Well, again, with this, and I'll tell you, I see this more with women than men. You know, men are
Okay.
yeah, men don't let a lot of things bother them, and their hormone balance isn't as delicate as women. You know, women have it's a very delicate hormone balance. They have to have that, you know, in order to get pregnant and carry a baby. Their hormones are very delicate. So I will tell you, 90% of the time, if a woman is having trouble sleeping, it's two issues: either their progesterone is low or their nighttime cortisol is high. So low progesterone makes it where it's difficult to sleep because progesterone behaves like GABA in the brain and makes it very calming. Because a lot of times women will say, "I can't go to sleep because my mind is racing." So it slows the brain down so that your mind doesn't race. High cortisol levels, because cortisol mobilizes glucose so you have energy. So high cortisol levels at night usually causes patients they can go to sleep, but they wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. The supplement I give for that is we have a supplement called SereneCalm. It has phosphatidylserine in it, and phosphatidylserine kind of reboots the brain so that it repairs or corrects that abnormal cortisol. So those are two important things because if that cortisol is up at night, that is what's suppressing the immune system function. So that's very important to make sure you have a normal nighttime cortisol. And also, when that cortisol is elevated, it makes it where you don't make enough melatonin. And melatonin, we know people take that to help them sleep, but
Right.
melatonin is also a very potent cancer prevention hormone. It actually is it helps to balance hormones during the night, and it also helps to support the immune system. So melatonin is very important when you're talking about preventing or even treating cancer. You can give melatonin, and it seems to help treat cancer, even if someone's on chemo or whatever.
And stress can also cause uh, cancer, basically.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because two things: stress increases inflammation, so it allows those cancer cells that may be dormant to be able to penetrate the tissue, and also because stress severely suppresses the immune system. We know that when we're under stress, you know, you catch a cold more easily. It's difficult for you to recover, you know, or if you just had an illness like a flu or something like that, then it's easy to catch something else. So stress really, so you have to think about stress. Stress is trying to get you out of an acute situation. You know, it thinks fight or flight. So it turns off the mechanisms to prevent a cancer 10 years from now. It says, I'm not worried about 10 years from now. I'm worried about fight or flight right now.
Right.
So stress definitely damages or suppresses the immune system and makes you susceptible to all kinds of things. You know, any kind of virus. If you talk to someone who gets the shingles, they probably were under a lot of stress and then they had shingles. Same way with herpes or anything like that. Stress allows the immune system to kind of move off its guard post because you have to look at the immune system is guarding your body against foreign invaders or whatever. And stress kind of puts them asleep at the guard post. And so now these opportunistic infections or cancers are allowed to proliferate.
What is When you're trying to raise the immune system, what is the best supplement for that?
Well, vitamin D, vitamin C. Now, here's the problem with vitamin C. You can only absorb so much vitamin C in your gut. You can only absorb about 1,000 milligrams to 2,000 milligrams at one time. So if you're going to take more than 1,000 milligrams, you have to spread it out over the day. And even if you take the 1,000 milligrams, you're only going to absorb about 25% of that, of ascorbic acid. So if you're really trying to boost your immune system, you need to take vitamin C IV. We actually give 25 grams, where we're talking about 1,000 milligrams, which is 1 gram, and you're only absorbing about 25% of that, which would be 250 milligrams. We're talking about giving you 25,000 milligrams IV.
Wow.
So that's what we're doing when we're trying to boost the immune system or treat somebody who has long COVID, or again, prior to the vaccines, trying to help people boost their immune systems. Now, and we could talk about this because I know we may be running out of time.
No, we're okay.
We also give
We're going to be on a little bit longer today.
Okay, so we give even higher doses to patients who are dealing with cancer. We start at a minimum of 50 grams or 50,000 milligrams with cancer patients, and you can go up to 100 grams because you're really trying to boost the immune system so the immune system will go out and kill these cancer cells. But you're also trying to make the normal cells as resistant as possible to cancer, and also try and make those healthy cells more resistant to chemotherapy, because you want chemotherapy to kill the cancer cells. You don't want it to kill the normal cells.
Right.
So we find that even, we don't discourage anybody from taking chemo or doing any type of conventional cancer treatments. That is a personal decision. They can decide to do it or not to do it. We don't influence them at all. But if they do decide to do chemotherapy, we usually will try to help them by giving them IV vitamin C. We have seen that actually helps them to respond better to the chemotherapy. It also decreases the amount of side effects that they have. A lot of times the treating physicians are surprised at how well the patient is doing. They don't have side effects. The cancer seems to be responding. So we think IV vitamin C is a great adjunct to any type of cancer treatment, conventional, non-conventional, whatever.
What types of cancer do you see in your practice?
I would tell you primarily I see breast and prostate, because that's probably the most common. We have seen some people with colon cancer. I've seen some people with other type of abdominal cancers. But I would tell you more times than not is breast cancer and prostate cancer.
We just got a viewer who's watching saying what a great show it is and wants to know, how does a man know if they have prostate cancer?
Well, the initial screening tool is a PSA, prostate specific antigen. And if a man goes to a doc and he's over 45 or 50 or has a history of prostate cancer in the family, their father or brother or whatever, almost everybody's going to get a PSA. So if that PSA is elevated, I think is above 6, then they're probably going to do some type of imaging, MRI or whatever. And then they're probably going to do a biopsy to see if it actually is cancer that's raising that PSA. So yeah, that would be the initial diagnosis. And the PSA doesn't mean that they have cancer. It just means that they have an antigen that is associated with the cancer. And the higher that PSA is, the more likely it really is cancer. Sometimes the PSA can be elevated due to prostatitis or inflammation of the prostate. But I would tell you that any doctor who sees a man and is a PCP and they're over 50, I would be surprised if they haven't had a PSA. And so, but the problem is with men is that they don't go to the doctor. So
Right.
it's probably
Because our body really doesn't tell us. Like if we have a cold, we have a runny nose or a cough,
right.
so the body doesn't really tell us when it comes
Yeah.
to prostate cancer.
Well, by the time the body is telling you that you have prostate cancer, it's probably pretty advanced because, well, it can either be an enlarged prostate and not be cancer, almost like a fibroid in a woman. You can have enlargement and it not be cancer. It can be benign. So with prostate cancer in men, if they have trouble getting their urine started, if they are getting up 4 or 5 times at night and only having a little bit of urine come out, those are signs that the prostate is enlarged. And it could be cancer, it could be benign. Then you get the PSA. If the PSA is only minimally elevated, it's probably a benign enlargement. But if it's really elevated, then you have to be concerned about cancer and do a biopsy. Yeah, so those are the signs in men. But what you want to do is catch it early and go to the doc and get your PSA. And because with any cancer, the earlier you catch it, the easier it is to treat. We've had a couple of guys come in who had mildly to moderately elevated PSAs. We give them IV vitamin C over the course of 2, 3, 4 weeks, and the PSA can go down, and they kind of have, excuse me, have avoided having the biopsies and all of those types of things.
Dr. Taylor, you hear all the time people who are going through cancer treatment. There's always seems like there's side effects. What can you do to prevent some of these side effects?
Well, vitamin C is probably the best. We usually will ask the patient, what's your chemo schedule? And either we will give them vitamin C a couple of days before or a couple of days after. And sometimes we do them both. And that really, really helps prevent a lot of the side effects. The patients don't get the nausea, don't get the GI problems. It really does. It seems to help a whole lot. The other thing that we give maybe 2 or 3 days after chemotherapy is glutathione. Glutathione helps the body to detoxify itself. So some of these patients will have like brain fog and not feeling well 2 or 3 days afterwards. And we found that giving them IV glutathione really clears their head. It takes away a lot of the aches and pains that they get after chemo. So vitamin C and glutathione are treatments that we use to help patients get through their cancer treatments with a lot less side effects.
We always hear about the good news that people are in remission from cancer and they're recovering. Mm-hmm. What can they do to stay cancer free?
Well, one is get the stress out of their lives. We wrote a book called The Stress Connection, but I there's another book that I recommend to my cancer patients, and it's called Anti-Cancer: A New Way of Life. And this was written by a physician who was a radiation oncologist or some type of radiation therapist. But anyway, he had a brain tumor, went through all the treatments, and they pretty much said, there's nothing we can do, get your affairs in order. And so he started researching, looking at Eastern medicine, looking at different herbs and things. Anyway, it's a book, and it talks about how he changed his life, got the stress out of his life, changed the way he eats, changed all these different things. And he lived 25, 30 years. Now, this was a physician, and he wrote this book, Anti-Cancer: A New Way of Life, and it became very popular. And he started going out, traveling, lecturing, talking about his book. Well, what happened is the stress of the travel and, eating in hotels, his cancer came back 25 years later. after his lifestyle went back toward his previous lifestyle. And he wrote another book saying how he failed to continue to take his own advice, and his cancer came back and he actually passed away. So anti-cancer, a new way of life. I tell everybody, you have to change things if you want to stay cancer free. Now, I will tell you, one of the things I really advocate for cancer patients and people who are trying to stay healthy is a more plant-based diet. Have the diet more of organic plants and fruits and vegetables. Try and decrease your exposure to meats, especially non-organic meats. But I would try and avoid most meats. If you're talking about living a anti-cancer life, to make the majority of your foods, fruits and vegetables, because they have a lot of anti-cancer chemicals that are known and unknown. And we know that patients who adopt that type of lifestyle seem to stay in remission longer and actually seem to survive cancer a lot better.
Motion detected at the front door.
I got to tell you, and this, I know you probably feel the same way. I am really upset with these health insurance companies, Dr. Taylor, because if you have cancer, it can be very expensive with chemo and everything. And here you have ways to help prevent cancer or to, deal with it in a holistic way that insurance companies don't cover that.
Yeah. Don't talk about insurance companies with me. That's an easy way to get my blood pressure up. So,
you don't want to do that.
Yeah. Well, what we did, we will help a patient. We will bill the insurance company for our services. Okay. However, the patient pays up front. We try and help them to get reimbursed, or at least it counts against their deductible. But we could not rely on insurance companies to pay us, or I would, I would be out of business.
Yes.
And that's the only way that, by not accepting what the insurance pays me, that's the only way that I can spend enough time with the patient to actually figure out what's going on. So the reason why doctors are seeing patients every 10 minutes, and you have a waiting room full of patients waiting 2 hours to see a doctor for 10 minutes, is that's the only way. If you're an insurance-based business, that's the only way you can make a profit. Because if the insurance company is going to pay you $50 to see a patient, and you've got staff members, you have to see these patients very quickly in order. So, $50 times 10 minutes. So 50 times 6 now. So now you're making $300, but it's very expensive to have that big of a practice. So I charge patients $175 for a 30-minute visit. I don't have that huge staff. I can sit and take time. And that's just for the initial visit. The other visits aren't that expensive. I can take time and actually talk to the patient and feel like I actually know what's going on. I don't feel rushed. The patient doesn't feel rushed. And it's a better experience. And that initial investment in the long run is going to save you a lot of money, because you're not going to be going from doctor to doctor, taking this pill and that pill. And now it's 5 years later and you're still feeling the same. And you've spent thousands of dollars seeing, doctors and buying medications that don't work.
Motion detected at the front door.
Well, I got to tell you, I love doing your show, and you're going to be back again with us this month. And, it's just such a pleasure. Your knowledge is just so amazing. Let's give everybody, for our radio listeners, let's give everybody your phone number and your website address, and our viewers can actually see it on the screen, your website address.
Right. So telephone number is 678-443-4000. And the website is taylormedicalgroup.net.
Dr. Taylor, Dr. Eldred Taylor, and we got many areas to talk on, which we will. Dr. Taylor, we'll see you again this month.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your information. Thank you, Dr. Taylor.
All All right. Bye-bye.
That's Dr. Eldred Taylor. We are so blessed to have him as part of our experts, and he will be back with us again. We will talk on ED, we'll talk on anti-aging, and he's actually, boy, this is, I would say, probably a pretty major endorsement. He treats my fiance, who had problems with sleep, and I got to tell you, he does a saliva test to see your hormones, your levels, and her hormones were so off. And I got to tell you, one of the things that bothered her so much is she doesn't eat very much at all, but she was gaining weight. She's in her 60s, and we couldn't understand. She can have hardly anything to eat, and then the next day she's gained 2 pounds. So we talked to Dr. Taylor, and he sent her in the mail a saliva test. We were shocked at the numbers, and it was like, no wonder she has problems sleeping. No wonder she is stressed out. No wonder she's gaining weight when she hardly eats anything at all. So we hope that you'll contact Dr. Taylor. He is one of our experts who I totally believe in. He has helped my fiance so much, and none of the doctors, and he's an MD. I mean, I keep saying other doctors. He's an MD. He knows he understands hormones. And that's probably the reason why he does the saliva test and not the blood test that a lot of doctors do. It's the saliva test is a lot more accurate than the blood test. And this is all he does now, is holistic medicine. He gave up a pretty lucrative practice as an OBGYN doctor. So we hope you'll the best way to reach him is through his website, which is www.taylormedicalgroup.net. Make sure you do the .net or you won't reach him. Or you can do taylormdformulations.com. Now he actually has a lot of his own supplements, and which turn out to be a lot stronger than the supplements you buy in the store. So we hope you will contact Dr. Taylor if you have a weight loss problem, erectile dysfunction problem, hormone problem, that you will contact Dr. Taylor. He is one of our top experts on our show. Well, we've come to an end of another Ask the Expert show. We will be back with you again next week with more experts in the fields of legal health, financial, and home improvement. We do appreciate you tuning in. And everybody have a wonderful week. Stay blessed, and we will see you again next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.